It's a real roller coaster ride here in Bali, Shihab. Within the last few minutes, the United States has come out apparently saying that they are going to accept this proposal. There was a standing ovation for the head of the US delegation, Paula Dubiansky, who said that they would accept the current document. Now, we're a little unclear at the moment if this means the way is now clear for a final agreement here. All the various other countries are having their way. But what seemed to precipitate this apparent U-turn or change of heart was an intervention by Papua New Guinea, one of the smallest and poorest countries represented here. Their delegate said something along these lines. There's an old saying that either you should lead or get out of the way, and I asked the United States to either lead or get out of the way, and that seemed to really strike a chime with the US delegation here, to strike a chord, and they then, a few minutes later, got up and said they would accept this proposal. So we're still not 100% clear if that means all of the obstacles are now out of the way, but certainly it's been a day of incredible drama inside that conference centre. Earlier on, we reported on the Executive Secretary, Ivo de Boer, basically breaking down and crying and having to walk out of the room after China accused him of not running things in a proper manner, effectively, by having two sets of talks going on at the same time. Everyone's pretty frazzled here. A lot of people have been up for 2 days and 2 nights with no sleep at all. But it seems there is a chink of hope now that things are going in the right direction.
But overall, though, Dan, as far as we understand in this final agreement, does it lead to firm commitments by countries to reduce their carbon dioxide emissions, which is what this is supposed to be about?
It doesn't lead them to commitments right now. What it does is it sets the stage for 2 more years of talks. And in this roadmap, as it's being called, it clearly now states that the world needs to come together and halve CO2 emissions by 2050. That's what they are all signing up to here today. What we will have to get to after here is exactly how they're going to achieve that. Who is going to do what mechanisms are going to be put in place. They've got some of it sketched out, some of the ideas sketched out here, but we haven't got down to the nitty-gritty, and that's all going to be thrashed out over the next 2 years, culminating in another summit in Copenhagen in 2009. And this Bali roadmap firmly sets the deadline that by 2009 in Copenhagen they must come to a global emissions deal.
What are, environmental groups saying that usually who are quite sort of skeptical about sort of commitments given at sort of meetings like this? Are they satisfied?
Well, we spoke to a few earlier on, and they put it this way, that this, if it goes through in the current formulation, is the best deal they can get with the Bush administration in power. Obviously, a lot of the Green groups are adamantly against President Bush. They say that his administration, his position has really held up negotiations terribly here, and they say basically this is as good as we can get with the current political landscape, and they are all emphasizing the fact that there is a US presidential election around the corner and things may change. So I think a lot of people here say this is as good as we're going to get now. The US has come a long way, and the US itself, the current delegation here, say they've been listening, they've been coming here with a positive attitude. Things are going to change in the election that may enable even more stronger commitments to come into place.
Do we know what exactly that sticking point was, though, between developing countries and the US?
Yeah, it came down to whether to include specific targets or sort of specific numbers in the introduction to this document. That was one problem that was between the US and Europe and some developing countries. That was solved by putting a footnote in which referred to a different report with those numbers in. The other sticking point was about funding. India was asking for more funding to help it clean up its act, basically to improve its situation to give out less CO2. It wanted more funding. All of that now seems to have been diffused, and it appears that we now have a deal that has been agreed by everyone. We're just getting word here from my producer that it seems that deal is now being done. It will be drawn up, photocopied, translated into those 6 UN languages. So in a historic moment, after a real day of a marathon, really. I think Ban Ki-moon said it was an exhaustive marathon, and the last mile was always the most difficult in these sorts of things. But seems in that last mile they have come the required distance to finish this long race.